Hey guys, the Firebird is here. It's just me. Squeak couldn't be here today because he's on a journey to Earth and it's gonna take him about 6 episodes to finally reach his destination. Much like the show! Anyways, yesterday I uploaded a video talking about all character deaths and disappearances in Earthrise, and by the looks of things, most of you seem to have already, seen the show. If you haven't, this video will contain slight spoilers. I'll try not to spoil too much, but actually, nah, I'm kidding. This video will contain spoilers, for sure. If you haven't watched it, go watch the series, come right back, or if you just don't care and, are not gonna watch it, you can just stay here to hear my thoughts on the show itself. Much like the title of this video, I'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So first off, I'll start with complimenting the show. Now, I think this show looks very, very good. Like, in comparison to Siege, I just like the color palette, the feel, even the title screen with the whole Earthrise logo. I just like that. I like the greens, the blues, it feels a bit more vibrant in a way than Siege did. Siege was very dark at times because of, the way they shot the environment, and in a way it coincided with the tone line because the Siege tone line had this, dark purple and orangey look to it, while Earthrise is more green and Kingdom's gonna be more vibrant orange with yellow. I like how each one of the shows in the trilogy is gonna have its own distinct look and feel, and Earthrise, it looks pretty good to me. The atmosphere around the show is still kinda dark. The first few episodes, especially with some of the stuff that's happening on Cybertron, is kinda dark. And also, Megatron talking to Ultra Magnus' head was kinda disturbing, but at the same time, it was very interesting, because that highlighted that Megatron is basically losing it. He's losing his head. He's like, all this pressure is getting to him. That's also one of the things I really like about the show. Megatron is probably my favorite character at the moment. Character-wise, I like him. Like, the whole concept of Megatron starring like a somewhat benevolent but also sort of strict and, ruthless ruler. It's a good one. I like that. And as we go through the series, we see him slowly lose his patience with the Autobots. We see him slowly turn insane and be overwhelmed by the actions of Optimus Prime. Because to be fair, what happened in Earthrise, the events that are happening on Earthrise, and what happened in Siege is sort of Optimus Prime's fault because he didn't really need to collect the Allspark. Megatron said he might use the Allspark, but he never did, and I don't think he would have, used the Allspark had Optimus Prime not forced his hand and actually, actively began looking for it. So in a way, Optimus Prime created his greatest enemy, and in a way Megatron also created Optimus Prime through his cruelty. It's like an endless cycle, and they do touch on this in the episodes themselves. Like, I believe it was episode 4, we get this whole Optimus Prime and Megatron dialogue, and honestly, I found that very interesting. Like, I was actually really entertained seeing the two of them, talk it out, be like, hey, you, every time you messed up, you got rid of the Allspark, our planet's dying because of you, and I always have to clean up your mess. Megatron actually had some valid points, and Optimus Prime also had some valid points as well. I found all of that very intriguing because in a lot of Transformers shows, we don't really get that, Optimus Prime and Megatron just having this philosophical debate instead of trying to kill each other 24/7. In Transformers Prime, they had a bit of that, but not a lot. And here, they had some of that. Sometimes it's very long and dragged out, and some other times it's more interesting. But I'll go more into that when I cover the bad. Now, another good thing that the show did was some of the new characters they introduced. Personally, I really enjoy and like the concept of the mercenaries, and I was really sad to see them go by the end of the show. I do hope that at least Double Dealer survives and he reappears in Kingdom, but honestly, I am not too sure. It could be 50-50, but I really do hope that we haven't seen the last of the mercenaries because I think they're a very interesting faction. Like, they're not Decepticons, they're not Autobots, they will work for whoever pays them the most. And when Double Dealer basically helped the Autobots escape from the Quintessons, that made me believe that the mercenaries have a lot of story potential. Maybe some mercenaries have a better, I don't know, moral code than most Decepticons or some other mercenaries. Maybe some mercenaries are more honorable than others, and maybe some are just more selfish, which could, add an air of unpredictability to this faction. And I really do hope that Hasbro and future Transformers shows and maybe some movies do more with the mercenaries. They're a very interesting concept. Now, The Quintesson was actually very interesting to me as well. When he started mutilating himself, I was not expecting that. I was like, that has such a horror feel moment to it, because we hear the screams of the faces as they're being mutilated, and then we just see how insane this Quintesson is, and that will make the whole episode feel very distinct from Siege, and it made it very enjoyable. I'm not saying that Transformers should have like an R-rated, show or movie or something like that. I'm saying that adding small horror elements to it, like making the air more dangerous, thrilling, and exciting, can do wonders for the show. I was actually really intrigued when that started happening. As for Galvatron and Skylinks, they do appear briefly. Skylinks dies rather quickly, which honestly, I kind of expected that, and honestly, I'm not too sad to see Skylinks go. He was never one of those characters that I really cared too much about, and it's been a while since I watched G1, and I thought Skylinks was just an okay character. I don't remember much about him. Okay, I'll go into Galvatron for the bad section, but I'll talk about what's good with Galvatron. I actually really like him interacting with Megatron. Those were some very interesting interactions. Like, I know people who didn't watch the G1 cartoon and don't know who Galvatron is might be a bit confused, or they might find his dialogue a bit intriguing, but if you're a Transformers fan and you know the backstory of Galvatron, then the whole conversation, every time they interact, is like you're at the edge of your seat because you're not wondering, is this the same Galvatron for the G1 cartoon, or is this a Galvatron for this universe's future, or something like that? It's very unclear, and I do plan to make a video about it. But yeah, the season finale, I think it was more thrilling than Siege. I mean, in terms of action, I think the Siege finale was a bit better, but instead of the stuff that was going on, the conflict, the oh my god, which character's gonna die, which character's gonna survive, I feel that Earthrise did a much better job with this, because I was like genuinely worried for some of the lives of these characters, except for BM Optimus, because they're BM Optimus. The voice acting in some cases has sort of improved, and in other cases it's just even more noticeable that it's bad, but I thought the mercenary voices were pretty much alright. The Quintesson was also pretty good, Unicron was really brief, he's okay. Galvatron was also alright, and Scorponok, I like what they did with him, make him sound more like Bone Crusher is supposed to sound like in the live action movie, so that was pretty cool. But anyways, that's all the praise I can give the show right now. If I think of something more later down the line, I'll mention it, but now I'll go over the bad, and that is, oh my god, I'm gonna do a separate video on this because now I think it's really a problem, and the voice acting in some cases hasn't improved. Optimus Prime sounds like a tough guy sometimes, and no, I don't mean that as in like a compliment. I mean that like a little kid trying to sound tough. It's like, oh my god, Bumblebee, get over here. It's like, it feels like someone doing an impersonation of Optimus Prime rather than Optimus Prime as a character speaking out, and that's something I really didn't like. I don't like the voice for Optimus. Optimus himself, I get what they're trying to do, set him up to be he's more Orion Pax at the beginning of Siege, and he's slowly developing into Optimus Prime towards the middle half of Earthrise, but I don't think he's quite there yet, and it's kind of infuriating that by this point we still have whiny Optimus Prime in a way. When he was about to shoot Megatron, he was like, I'm gonna shoot you, but before that, I need you to forgive me! And in his, pretend tough guy voice, and I just found that really cringy, and, no hate towards the voice actor. I think he's doing his best. I think he was just either miscasted, and also, Rooster Teeth has another problem with the voice, and that's the direction. Megatron, when he talks so freaking slow. It's like, Optimus Prime. Don't look at me like that, Ultra Magnus. I will save Cybertron. It's not the problem of the voice actor. I don't think it's his fault, because in Combiner Wars he did a decent enough job. He was actually pretty good. Here is the fault of Rooster Teeth, their artistic direction. They want this Megatron to be slow and methodical, and it's fine if you want to do that, but I respect them for trying to be artistic, but this is supposed to be entertaining. I want to be entertained. I don't really want to watch some artsy-fartsy interpretation of the Transformers, okay? Like, Transformers Prime Megatron. When Transformers Prime Megatron speaks, I could watch hours of him just speaking because his dialogue is so interesting and the voice actor brings so much character and presence and emotion to Transformers Prime Megatron. But for this one, I'm bored and I'm like, can you just get it over with? And you probably already saw the reviews of other people, and a lot of people have been speeding up some of the talking sections from the normal speed to 0.25 times the speed, making it go faster. And ironically, it works because the first time I was watching the show and Megatron started speaking, I actually speeded up and I actually was like, hey, he actually sounds pretty good like this. It's not the fault of the voice actor, it's the fault of Rooster Teeth. So expect me to do a video on that because there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to the voice acting. Some of the voices work in the show and some don't. Like Ironhide, I don't like that he sounds younger instead of like this older war veteran. And again, some of the Decepticons also could use some improvement. Some of them, not all of them, because most of them don't appear that often. I don't mind Shockwave's voice. He's like this mad scientist, and in this series he gets portrayed as being more of a bit of a nut. So I actually do think that voice fits in. Soundwave, yeah, he needs some change. Some of the action sequences also do need some improvement. I mean, they're pretty good, and I think they're a step up from Siege, but most of them are done and over with pretty quickly, which, I mean, I think it's fine, you know. It's depending on how you feel about the action scenes. Some of them are either really generic and some of them are actually really exciting, but they're done and over with way too quickly. Another bad is that recently I made a video critiquing Siege and how Siege broke dead. In this series, it's a bit of the same. Now, we don't really get too much of random characters surviving like really destructive injuries, but actually there is a bit of that. But what can and can't kill a Transformer is not very clear. Like sometimes you see an Autobot or Decepticon get shot and that shot in the chest kills them instantly. But other times, an important Autobot or an important Decepticon will get shot in the chest and they will still be alive. Or they'll get shot multiple times and they're still somehow alive. Siege can decide what can and can't kill a Transformer. It's not like the movies and it's not like in Prime. Well, Prime also had a bit of that, but whenever we saw characters like, you know, be on the verge of that or like be insta-shot was usually characters that really didn't matter, like the Steep Troopers. In this show, important characters are like always, you know, shot at, then they're, you know, left out to be alive, they're not, you know, finished off when the enemy has the chance, and they just get back up and start fighting again. I didn't really like that. Also, I didn't mind the ending, but the problem with the ending is that it feels like that's it. Like it gets good. I'm not lying, it gets really good, but when it ends, you're like, wait, that's it? It's over? Okay. It's like I expected a bit more. Now, the ugly. Some of the things I'll mention here are not exactly bad by default, or at least I didn't find them bad. It's just that when you take outside factors into consideration, these things become even more noticeable. And you're like, why did they do that? Now, one of the things that I had the most problem with was when Galvatron first appeared. Now, I like what they did there, you know. It's a G1 reference, pretty cool, you know. It's an almost full shot-by-shot recreation of, you know, Megatron being turned into Galvatron in G1. But at the same time, the way they did it, it felt like out of place. Like all of a sudden, we were on like this, you know, dark environment inside the Nemesis, and all of a sudden we get like this, you know, really bright lights, and we see this anime transformation, which I know this is an anime and I don't mind that stuff, but imagine like you were watching something like an anime like The Promised Neverland, which is really good in my opinion, and all of a sudden when the characters are about to like go into a big scary forest, we get this anime transformation coming out of nowhere when throughout the entire show, which has been really good so far, we never really had that. Imagine something like that. It's weird, it felt out of place. The animation to me felt off when Galvatron did that. Also, some of the camera angles and some of the way some of the shots in the series was made also feel weird. Like, we are inside the Nemesis for the Galvatron scene, and then like the camera goes into the window of the Nemesis outside, and we see this portal, and then we see Galvatron emerge, and then all of a sudden Galvatron's already inside the ship instead of being outside of it, and Galvatron does this weird pose which I really don't like, and then like he gets up like I'm sorry, was he flying? Was he inside the Nemesis? I'm so confused. And this also happens in some cases, like when the Autobots are running away from Scorponok, Bumblebee is right alongside with them, but when the camera reverts back to seeing the Autobots running, Bumblebee is suddenly further away from everyone else. These are pretty prevalent throughout the show. These weird art inconsistencies, I guess you could call it. Also, I was very confused as to the amount of Autobots that are in the arc. The show doesn't explain stuff like this, and this is really confusing for me. Like, when the mercenaries kidnapped the Autobots, I was really confused. I was like, wait, in Siege, the Autobots had tons of random generic Autobot soldiers, but we only see like 8 Autobots being taken to the Quintessence, where's everyone else? And some characters appear randomly. Like, you will figure Ratchet will be alongside Optimus Prime's crew, but he just appears randomly in episode 3. And I was really confused about that. Oh, and Barricade goes missing again, because of course he does. Also, Astro Train in Siege was huge, and in Earthrise he's only the size of Barricade. No, he's not exactly his size, he's like bigger than the average Autobot in Decepticon, but he's not as big as he was in Siege, and I was so confused about that. I was like, I had to double check actually, because I was like so confused. I was like, wait, what? Wasn't he like huge in Siege? Another major complaint, and I did cover this in the bad, is the whole talking. Episode 5 is like almost 80% talking, which, I mean, it's pretty interesting, the things that they're tackling, and, you know, seeing Galvatron and Megatron interact with one another is pretty cool. But at the same time, I was like, oh my god, can you just get it over with? Like, I feel like for Kingdom, what Rooster Teeth should do is they should just set the average speed for the show to just 0.25%, at least for the scenes when people are talking, because I feel like that will do wonders. Because it's not the fault of the voice actors, the thing is like their whole artistic direction that they're taking the series in. It's harmful, it's not helpful. Please just stop. Don't do that. Stop. Just no. Now this is kind of a complaint that some people will have, and that is that Earthrise doesn't really feature Earth. Now, this is a thing that people have brought up even before the show began, and I mentioned in various videos, which for some reason people have not watched, that Earthrise is not about, you know, arriving on Earth. Earthrise is the journey to Earth. The whole meaning of Earthrise, the word, is not like, oh, Earth, it's here. It's like seeing Earth from the horizon. Is actually based off a picture taken by astronauts when they first landed on the moon, and it's a minor thing that people seem to be nitpicking a lot, even though if you actually research the background of the meaning, it actually does make a whole lot more sense than what you might think. But speaking of Earth, the Autobots never really land on Earth. Like, we never physically see an Autobot land on Earth. And they don't scan their Earth vehicle modes, which I kind of found that a bit surprising. I was expecting that by the end of the show, we were gonna have the Autobots and the Decepticons fight on Earth, and while they're doing that, they'll find the Allspark, and the Allspark will somehow transport them to the past or the future. You know, since we're getting into Beast Wars, and if you know anything about Beast Wars, the time travel thing is a bit confusing, but, you know, they get transported to the Beast Wars era, but they actually arrive in prehistoric Earth, and they get found by Dynamite, which was a pretty hype moment. I'm actually pretty happy that we're gonna see him in the next series, but that's probably gonna be a letdown for some of the people who collected some of the toys. Like, I sure felt a bit let down after collecting Earthrise Optimus Prime and not seeing him in the show itself. And I don't think we will see any Earth mode Transformers for Kingdom. I don't feel like that's gonna be the case. And anyways, I think that's about it. Honestly, my overall thoughts after watching the show, I'll say it's better than Siege, but I wouldn't say it's quite Beast Wars or Transformers Prime level. If for me Siege was a 6.5 out of 10, for me Earthrise is a solid 7.5 out of 10. At least I felt more entertaining while watching Earthrise, with the exception of episode 5, because I feel like it dragged in some places. But everything else to me felt really exciting, and I really liked some of the characters that we saw in Siege come back, and some of the new characters in Earthrise were also pretty entertaining, even though for the most part we didn't see a lot of the new characters, at least most of them until the ending. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty hyped for Kingdom. I feel like Kingdom's actually gonna be pretty good. Like, this is alright. Siege was really meh for me. Earthrise was actually alright. It was okay. You know, it's not the kind of show I will watch like 4 times in a row, but it's the kind of show I will watch, you know, on occasion. Like, I actually really felt pretty entertained with Earthrise and how they develop some of the characters. So for Kingdom, I'm actually kind of curious to see where they take their story next. Kingdom's gonna come out next year. If I were a betting man, I will say probably sometime around June, if we take into account how long it took for Earthrise to come out right after Siege. So, you know, set your calendars for June. That's my prediction. And when the time comes, I'm not too sure if we're gonna get another trilogy after Kingdom. We'll have to wait and see. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoy. Let me know what you guys thought about Earthrise. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you agree with some of my complaints? Do you agree with some of my praises? And, you know, are you excited for Kingdom? Let me know all about it in the comments down below, and I'll be answering to some of your comments. So, yeah. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. But anyways, guys, before we go, shout out to our patrons: TrueBlue712, Stitch Productions, Stephanie Bowler, Christopher Prime, Frederick Hunter Plays, Mario Gordon, and the absolute madman himself, Jordan the Great, who donated $100. Thanks a lot to you guys. I tip my fedora in gratitude. A link to their channels and our Patreon are gonna be in the description and in the comments down below. Make sure to go check out their channels. Some of these guys do pretty cool content, and if you guys want to shout out your subs, all you have to do is donate to our Patreon. By donating to our Patreon, you get quite a few rewards. You can collab with me in some of my videos, you get exclusive roles on my Discord server, you can request your own videos, maybe even appear in some of my videos if you so choose, and I'm adding more rewards as time goes on. So yeah, it's a pretty good deal. But keep in mind that it is completely optional, because freedom is the right of all sentient beings. So yeah, thank you guys for donating, it's much appreciated, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.